Let's talk about poverty, but not the kind you picture from old movies or charity ads. Forget Victorian rags, Dickensian alleys, or outdated stereotypes. Poverty in the UK today is quieter, almost invisible. It has a job, pays rent, wears clean clothes, and maybe even owns a smartphone. It is barely hanging on. This is the new face of poverty in Britain, and it's sitting right next to us. So what does it really mean to be poor in one of the richest countries on earth? It's not always about sleeping rough or going hungry. More often it's a quiet struggle behind closed doors, juggling bills, skipping meals, and the constant feeling of falling behind. Officially, a household is in poverty if its income is less than 60% of the median after housing costs. According to the latest data, that's about £15,000 a year for a single adult, or £27,000 for a couple with 2 kids. Sounds doable on paper, right? But with rent, energy bills, transport, food, and debt repayments, that income disappears fast. The reality? Families living paycheck to paycheck, with nothing left for savings, emergencies, or even small comforts. In 2024, the Joseph Rowntree Foundation reported 14.4 million people in the UK live in poverty. That's more than 1 in 5. And here's the real shocker. Over half of those are from working households. Yes, in today's Britain, you can have a full-time job, follow the rules, and still struggle to afford a decent life. This isn't a glitch, it's the system. You work, you come home, and you're still broke. It's a paradox millions live every day. Why? Because wages have failed to keep up with the soaring cost of living. The national living wage increased slightly in April 2024 to £11.44 an hour, but relentless price hikes swallowed it whole. Rent, food, transport, childcare, energy, all costing more and rising. Take rent. The average monthly rent in the UK is now £1,280, a 10% jump in a year. In London, it's over £2,000. If you're on minimum wage, you'd need to work full-time and then some, just to cover rent, not counting council tax, groceries, bills, or commuting. The numbers simply don't add up. This is why in-work poverty has become a defining crisis in modern Britain. The idea that a job will save you from poverty is often a cruel illusion. The dignity of work has been replaced by overwork, anxiety, and tough choices, like heating or eating, often ending with neither. And poverty's impact goes far beyond adults. In 2023, 4.2 million children in the UK were living in poverty, nearly 1 in 3. In some places, like Blackpool and parts of Birmingham, it's over 40%. Child poverty is so entrenched in these areas it's almost accepted as normal. But we're not talking about worn-out images from the past. These are kids in school uniforms, scrolling smartphones, but going to bed hungry, skipping breakfast, relying on free school meals and food banks, living in cold, damp, overcrowded homes. Their parents often skip meals themselves. The effects are deep and long-lasting. Poorer academic performance, higher risks of mental and physical health issues, and a greater chance of remaining poor into adulthood. Is a cycle of disadvantage, and right now we're doing far too little to break it. Food banks are a stark sign of this failure. In 2023-24, the Trussell Trust distributed nearly 3 million emergency food parcels, an all-time high. Food banks were meant as emergency help. Now they're lifelines for millions. And forget stereotypes. They're filled with nurses, delivery drivers, single parents, carers, disabled people, and even university lecturers. People working, paying taxes, doing all they can and still coming up short. They don't want charity. They want fair wages, affordable homes, and a chance at stability. But instead, they rely on volunteers just to survive. This isn't just an isolated problem. It's a widespread crisis. Modern poverty hides in plain sight, in quiet suburbs. Uniformed workers commuting daily, scrolling Instagram like anyone else. Outward appearances don't reveal the debt, anxiety, and insecurity lurking behind closed doors. Speaking of debt, in 2024, the average UK household owes over £65,000, including mortgages, credit cards, overdrafts and loans. Much of this isn't luxury spending, it's survival. Citizens Advice reports rising struggles with rent arrears, council tax debt and risky buy now, pay later schemes. These aren't reckless spenders, they're people stretched too thin by stagnant wages and rising costs. And the worst part? The shame. Poverty in Britain is often hidden behind forced smiles and silence, because admitting struggle feels like failure. People suffer alone, trying to keep up appearances in a system quietly grinding them down. Geography matters too. Poverty rates hover above 30% in places like the North East, Wales, Northern Ireland and the Midlands. Even inside cities, wealth and deprivation live side by side. Deindustrialization hollowed out economies in many regions, leaving behind insecure, low-paid jobs in warehouses, gig work, social care and hospitality. And then there's fuel poverty. In 2023, 6.5 million households, more than 1 in 4, couldn't afford to heat their homes properly. Cold homes cause respiratory and heart illnesses and worsen mental health. Thousands, especially elderly people, die every winter due to cold-related causes in one of the richest nations on earth. Government support helps, but doesn't fix the problem. Some households fall behind on bills anyway. Prepayment meters became common in poorer areas, rationing heat and electricity. Run out of credit and the power shuts off. No lights, no heating, no internet. Darkness and cold are the new reality for millions. Poverty costs the UK economy around £78 billion a year in healthcare, benefits, social services and lost productivity. And that's before considering long-term damage to education, social mobility and the cycle of poverty itself. We spend more managing poverty than it would cost to prevent it. Imagine investing that money instead into early education, affordable housing, living wages and stronger social safety nets. Instead, we prop up a broken system that keeps people trapped while draining resources and talent. The question isn't whether we can afford to tackle poverty, it's whether we can afford not to. Let's bust some myths. Most people in poverty aren't lazy or making bad choices. They're doing everything society asks, working, paying taxes, raising families. What fails them is a labour market of low-paid, insecure jobs, a housing market stacked against renters, a welfare system full of holes, and a political class that often prefers show over substance. The media rarely tells the full story, focusing on individuals instead of the structural problem. Can we fix this? Yes, but it won't be easy or fast. It demands bold policies, real investment, and shifting priorities to address root causes, not just symptoms. What does that look like? Living wages that match the real cost of living, not just scraping by. Affordable housing with rent controls and more homes built. Universal free childcare to help working parents. Benefits reform to cut delays and ensure enough money to live on. Fairer wealth taxes so the richest pay their share. In short, we need to stop treating poverty as inevitable and start fixing it. The UK isn't short on money, it's short on political will. The new face of poverty is your colleague, neighbour or friend. The single parent at the school gates. The retiree who can't afford heating. The key worker who clapped during the pandemic but now queues for food parcels. This is a story about fairness, dignity and the kind of country we want to be. If this resonates, don't just scroll past, share it. Because poverty in the UK isn't inevitable, it's a choice. What are your thoughts and opinions on this? Drop it in the comments, and please remember to like, follow and subscribe, so you don't miss out on future videos.